All right. I think we're live. I think all of our little audio things are working, if the flashing bars I'm seeing are correct. And we're going to get right into it. I think I'm going to start off today by trying to remember what I did in this game last time. Our main character, Semyon, continued his daily life in the camp. There was a ball that we did not attend in favor of a private guitar thing with Alyssa. Shurik, the studious, bespectacled gentleman, went missing. That aforementioned Alyssa committed an act of domestic terrorism that everyone really just kind of glossed over in favor of looking for Shurik. We went to an old abandoned campground, underneath which there was a Soviet fallout shelter, underneath which there appeared to be some old mine shafts, at the end of which we found Shurik, who proceeded to attack us with a piece of metal that was described as a pipe, but depicted not as a pipe. So, you know, we're just going to call that generic piece of metal that you swing at people. And going from there, we were in darkness. There was a light at the end of the tunnel that Shurik, quote unquote, was leading us towards. And we don't know if that really is Shurik. Maybe it's a shapeshifter. Who knows? So, I mean, we're gonna get right into it, I think. We're gonna swap to the live scene here. And I think we're right here. Let's double click it. Oh, we gotta hit load game, that's why. Okay. And picking up from last time, I believe what we were doing is, walking through this dark tunnel led by possibly real fake Shurik, and now we're gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, a dim light appeared in the distance. Oh, what did I make Shurik sound like? I just did like generic deep for Shurik. We're here. We reached the wall. The way towards freedom was blocked by a lattice on the ceiling. I pulled myself up and recognized the square from the bits of landscape I could see. Lift me up. Shurik obediently followed my request. I started to hit... Oh, he's just banging at it, okay. I started to hit the grating with my fists so hard that in just a few strikes, my arms were all covered in blood. Boy, this is ramping up really quickly. But in return, the grating gave way and pushed open. A minute later, we were out on the surface behind the monument of Genda. When I saw this grating before, I had no idea that there would be catacombs below it. They will come for you. I fell to the ground, exhausted. Who? They will come, said Shurik again, and ran away. And we don't chase him or scream for people to get him because that's not important. I was so exhausted that I could not even be bothered thinking about some voices, or recalling the forsaken camp, the bomb shelter, or the mine. Almost unconscious, I reached the camp leader's cabin. But I couldn't go to bed right away. Well, look who's here. Hold on, I gotta make sure my... Okay, that's working. Well, look who's here. Olga Dimitrievna. I started tiredly, attempting to cut the explanation to a minimum. You said you were going for a walk, but instead... And I I was going to go call the police. And Olga Dimitrievna, can it wait until tomorrow? I'm really, really tired. The camp leader eyed me all over. Okay, fine. I was a bit surprised that she agreed so fast, but decided not to waste this opportunity, and quickly turned the light off and darted under the covers. I think that gets us into day 5. Yes, here we are. Lovely. We ran with the last of our strength, like those who run for their precious lives, like a doomed person, knowing that there is no hope to save his life, will still fight the inevitable and his own fate. I barely managed to close the heavy metal door behind me. I have no idea how deep this bomb shelter is, or if it's able to withstand a nuclear blast, but we have no other place to hide. She gripped my hand tight. Don't be afraid. Bits of the ceiling were falling, and the walls were shaking. I was prepared for the worst. But death is the kind of thing that you can't ever be prepared for. But suddenly, complete silence fell. It rang even louder than the explosions. Maybe it's time to say goodbye. She was whimpering. I wanted to comfort her somehow, but realized that there was nothing I could do. Yes. You know, A horrible bang almost split my eardrums. It seems that I'm under a piece of collapsed ceiling, but I don't feel any pain. All I want is to not let her go. I woke up in a cold sweat, short of breath and gasping for air. I'm going to take a quick drink, too. Short of breath and gasping for air. It took me some time to come to my senses. It was a dream. It was just a dream. My questioning mind, however, refused to believe it. But who was that girl with me there? I didn't want to let go of her hand so desperately. Sadly, I couldn't recall her at all. The clocks was showing few minutes past 10. I slowly came to my senses as reality started to stake its claim on my mind, and my stomach foully growled. All right, war is war, but lunch should be served in due time. It turned out that Olga Dimitrievna wasn't here. She must have decided not to wake me up. Well, thanks go out to our camp leader for this. After yesterday's adventures, I had to have a rest. Last night remained a blurry memory, which I really didn't want to think about. It's now more important to find something to eat and to wash myself. Exactly. Because a pioneer must always be clean and tidy. Though, I would agree with this principle even if I wasn't a pioneer. And as a matter of fact, I'm not. On my way out to the washstands, I met Electronic. He started to wave his hands and ran up to me. Good morning. Thank you for finding Shurik. Without him, I don't even... It's nothing. I was a bit embarrassed. No, really, don't be shy. The country must be proud of its heroes. And what about Shurik? How did he look this morning? Is he all right? After yesterday's craziness, I thought such a question was completely valid. Yes, absolutely. The only thing is that he can't remember anything. Can't he? I wasn't surprised at all. He says that he went to the abandoned camp yesterday and then woke up in his bed the morning. I mean, he remembers nothing between those two events. I see. All right, then. You missed breakfast, right? Come to our club. We'll feed you. I have something special. Electronic smiled in a conspiratorial way. They're going to try to feed me a robot. And it's not going to wash down without any milk, let me tell you. Thanks. I'll come. Probably. I had to wash myself first, anyway. I'll be waiting. He waved at me and left to carry out his own business. There was nobody near the wash stands. A very convenient thing for the artist depicting this, I'm sure. The water turned out surprisingly warm today. It's been warmed up already, I guess. Having my face washed, I realized that it wouldn't be easy to wash the rest of my body here. Maybe I should go to the showers. But since nobody is here, I turned the tap in such a way that water streamed parallel to the ground and started to take off my clothes. And what if somebody sees me? Well, I'll rinse and dry myself quickly and put on my clothes. The water, which seemed warm on my hands and face, felt bone-chillingly cold on my body. The whole washing process took no longer than 10 seconds, and I started to wipe myself quickly afterwards. But I didn't managed to finish anyway. There were voices coming from the direction of the footpath. The only solution came to me in a split second. I grabbed my clothes and dashed into the bushes. A moment later, Alisa and Uliana appeared near the washstands. You could have done it by yourself. Why did you bring me here? Isn't it a big deal for you? Fine, let me. I peered at them and noticed that they were both covered in red paint. What a surprise. I wonder how they managed that. I'm going to get that sensor bar ready. Hold on. Alisa opened the valve and started to rub Uliana's back. Take off your bra. What if somebody sees us? What? Is there anything to see? She grinned. Okay, just be quick. It was true that there wasn't much to look at, but even so, I stared at the girls narrowly. It was a pity that they were standing with their backs to me. A minute later, Alisa managed to wash off all the paint. I'm done. Thanks. You're welcome. Alisa replied lazily. Listen, let me try on yours. She pointed at Alisa's bra. It won't fit you for sure. Well, I'd like to try anyway. But out here. There's nobody here, right? Uliana looked my way and smiled archly. I was absolutely sure she couldn't see me in these bushes, but... Enough with this nonsense. Uliana wasn't listening to her anymore and grabbed Alisa's bra with a dexterous move instead. Now, I have to confess, I had something to look at. I watched the two girls chase each other around the washstands with bated breath. Alisa covered her breasts with her hands, so I could barely see anything at all. I leaned forward and stumbled over a stone, falling out of the bushes. Alisa and Uliana stood frozen, staring at me. I tried to cover my... Oh yeah, Semyon's naked too, isn't he? This is not a good look. I tried to cover my nudity with a guilty face. The tableau lasted for a few seconds. Then Alisa took her shirt and somehow put it on in an instant. You. Her face had gone red to purple. It looked like she would explode in a nuclear blast any second. The only thing I wanted was to disintegrate into atoms and to get as far from the epicenter as possible. He was sitting there the whole time. So, she noticed me then. You. And I accidentally, if you know what I mean. Alisa rushed at me, covering my butt with one hand and holding my clothes with the other. I ran in the woods. It seemed the best solution to me at the time, as showing up butt naked in the middle of the camp accompanied by two screaming girls wasn't a good idea. I ran without looking back, and stopped few minutes later to catch my breath. It seemed that there was no pursuit. So, I managed to save myself. But at the cost of lacerated, scratched, and bleeding feet, as I had no time to put on my boots. I sat on a tree stump and sighed. Some time later, having dressed already, I left the forest. I need to decide what to do next. My feet are hurting, so I should go straight to the infirmary. But on the other hand, my stomach isn't going to wait either. Maybe I should accept Electronic's invitation. Or head to the canteen in the hope of finding something left to eat there. Now, I am curious about what Shurik's up to, what with the whole being possessed thing. I'm going to take a quick drink. Oh, iced tea ASMR, here we go. Okay, I think, yeah. Which one is Shurik? Is it the clubhouse? I assume it's the clubhouse. I was desperately hungry. I always took good care of my health. And even better care at the times when something started to hurt badly. And now I was able to walk, and my feet weren't even hurting much. So my feet will heal up eventually, while my hunger can't wait. I decided to take advantage of Electronic's invitation. In the end, knowing the local pioneers, it was smart to assume that there wasn't even a piece of stale bread left at the canteen. And the Cybernetics Club actually somewhat owe me. With such thoughts, I approached the club's building and heard screams coming from it. I tried to listen closely but couldn't figure out anything. Give it back. No, I won't. Oh boy, switching between these two is going to be something. Uliana was running around the room with a coil of wire in her hands, chased by Shurik. Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but give it back. They didn't even give me a bit of attention. No, I won't. Shurik, completely caught up in the chase, slipped past me, almost knocking me down. Hey! Uliana was running in circles around the room, laughing cheerfully. I wonder what she needs this wire for. Meanwhile, the head of the Cybernetics Club was looking fine, even after yesterday's madness. One could even say he was looking fresh. But this probably wouldn't help him to catch Uliana. She was smaller, more agile, and faster after all. She could easily drive him to exhaustion. Hey! Uliana ran up to me and hid behind my back. Shurik, in his turn, left the club, slamming the door on his way out. He was offended, it seems. Hey, what's wrong with you? You won't catch me. She looked at Electronic, who was silently observing all this silly running, and stuck her tongue out at him. Semyon, take the wire away from her. And why do you need it in the first place? You don't have enough wire or something? He was trying to catch Uliana, who was hiding behind me. He moved to the right while she moved to the left. He moved to the left and she moved to the right. In the end, I got tired of this and grabbed the wire from Uliana in one dexterous move. Give it to me! Give it back! She shouted resentfully. No, I won't. Stop horsing around. I held the wire above my head so Uliana with her height couldn't possibly get it. Thank you. Okay, fine. She snorted and turned away from me. Why do you need it in the first place? That's none of your business. Uliana looked at me slyly. Do you want me to tell everybody that you... I shut her mouth with my hand and dragged her along to the exit. Okay, we need to go. I told Electronic while giggling stupidly. And what did you come for? Once outside, I let the kicking Uliana free. Hear me out. You realize that it was an accident. Even more so, it was caused by you. I know nothing. Facts are facts. You were watching us. Aw. What would Olga Dimitrievna think? On the one hand, I did not want to care in the slightest what the camp leader would say. But on the other, everything was against me, and in my position, it would be better to not get myself in such a situation. Fine. Maybe we could make a deal somehow. I don't like that face. She started to think. I know. I anticipated the worst. You bring me that wire. But what do you need it for? I need it for my needs. Okay, let's assume I get it. You won't tell anybody? I give you the word of a pioneer. I could hardly believe her. But on the other hand, it was just a coil of wire, so why shouldn't I try? You know what? Last time I gave someone something, it led to an act of domestic terrorism. In-game. So, sure. I'm the straw that stirs the drink, I suppose. Okay, fine. Deal. But you must know that... Ellipse. Yeah, of course. She interrupted me. Wait here. Saying that, I went into the club's quarters. Electronic was building something with rapt attention. Now I'm done with everything. So I thought you could get me something, as you promised. My voice sounded a bit sycophantic. Sycophantic? Sycophantic, I think, which was enough to drive me mad. Of course, I'm not insisting, but... 1 minute. He tore himself away from his work and got a pair of buns from the drawer and a classic triangular pack of kefir. Be my guest. Thank you. While I was busy eating, Electronic didn't turn away from his device for a second. He was rolling up the wire, which I had taken away from Uliana, onto the coil. And it was wire she wanted. So what's this? An inductor? Inductor? Join our club and you'll know everything. He looked at me and smiled slyly. I'll think about it. Of course, I wasn't going to join anything, but taking into account that he had fed me, I had to be polite. By the way, as I said, I have something else. Well, yeah. Wait a second. He went into the adjacent room and came back after a minute with some kind of package. Tan-ta-da! Tan-ta-da! And gave it to me. There was a big bottle of Stolichnaya? Oh, Stolichnaya vodka inside. Huh, I get it, but it's still morning. Or does electronics share the motto of get drunk in the morning, take the entire day off? What are you talking about? I'm not suggesting we drink it. We have it to clean the optics. Cleaning the optics. Yeah, right. Internally. Okay. I gave him the package back. By the way, can you spare me this coil? What do you need it for? Probably I had to think about a reason beforehand. I just need it. But we can't do without it as well. Do you? Well, never mind then. I can't just force him to give it to me, right? I'll go then. Come back any time. Of course. The moment I want to have a drink. Walking out, I questioned myself why he wanted to show me the vodka in the first place. Uliana ran up to me instantly. And? So? Have you got it? No. That's your own fault, then. Do you need this wire at all? But you get credit for trying. What? I was surprised. Alyssa would tell everything anyway. Uliana laughed. She is really angry with you. I bet, I muttered quietly. Okay, see ya. I don't like it when the game gets quiet. It makes me think there's going to be another explosion. She waved at me and ran away. Here I am, in a stupid situation once again. No big deal. It's not the first time. Suddenly, my hunger returned again. For sure, a meal of some buns and kefir was awesome, but it's not enough to fill me up. Luckily for me, I heard the bell sound, calling pioneers for lunch. The day has just started, and I've gone through so many things already. But I did it, and now have legitimate grounds to fill myself up. Today I wasn't the last one, so I could choose a free table. Lunch included pea soup and mashed potatoes with fish. It was a major disappointment to me, as I don't eat fish in any form, and hence will get fewer calories than usually. This guy doesn't like to eat fish. What's up with him? Soon, Slavia and Lena came to my table. Can we? She smiled nicely. Eh? Yes, sure. I stood up and pulled out a chair for her. Please. I was in an excellent mood at that moment. Enjoy your meal. Saying that, Lena began staring at me and continued for some time, but then, after realizing how odd she looked, switched to her plate. You too? Do you have any plans for today, Semyon? Nope. I gave her an honest answer, as I indeed had no plans. Except for searching for answers, but that was more like a global goal. Do you want to take a boat ride to the island with us? The island. Well, I think I've seen it from the pier. For what? Olga Dimitrievna asked us to gather some strawberries. There are a lot of strawberries there, and they're so delicious. I could imagine the taste without even eating it, just by looking at Slavia's face. Strawberries. And what are those for? Hold on. Gotta keep the old whistle wet. I don't know, but it's indeed a great idea. Well, indeed it is. Moreover, I haven't been to the island yet. Yeah, sure. Ellipse. Within minutes, we were already standing at the pier. Well, here is the boat. Hang on, I'll go fetch the paddles now. I was left face to face with Lena. Do you like strawberries? Well, not really, but they're tasty. Lena smiled. I see. I didn't know what to say next, how to continue the conversation. If Slavia didn't come back, we would probably sit here till the evening without saying a word. Here you go. She handed me a pair of hefty paddles. Yeah, thanks. We got onto the boat. I untied it, pushed off the shore, and tried to start paddling. And where exactly are we heading to? Right there. She pointed her finger at the island. The island is named the closest one. I wonder what captain gave it such an original name. Well, the island is indeed close to the shore. Aye, aye, Captain. If only I'd known what was waiting for me ahead. I wasn't an experienced oarsman. I'd rowed a boat just once or twice in my entire life. It was less than half a mile to the island, but we were making our way in zigzags thanks to my skills. By approximately the middle of the trip, my arms hurt so badly that I dropped the paddles to get some rest. Well, aren't there any strawberries anywhere else? I mean, in more accessible places? But the tastiest ones grow there. Slavia gave me a puzzled look. Is it hard for you to row alone? Lena, unlike Slavia, understood everything straight away. Oh, it's nothing. Anyways, I couldn't let a fragile girl help me. The rest of the way I spent concentrating on staying alive while getting to the island. Slavia and Lena. Lena, that's different now. I can't even say any names anymore. Slavia and Lena discussed something, but I wasn't listening. That was too much for me. At last we arrived. Less than half a mile? That looks like a couple 100 feet. Unless that building's just huge. Completely exhausted, I got out on the shore and looked at the boathouse. It seemed so far away that I felt like the first person on the moon watching the Earth rise. I don't agree with you, Semyon. Here you go. Slavia handed me a basket. It was a small island, barely 100 meters long, and it looked more like a birch grove with even rows of trees covering its entire surface. A calm green sea spread beneath our feet, with wind causing lonely waves on its surface from time to time. The island looked like a lost paradise. It's no wonder that the most delicious strawberries grow just here. We've got to split up. That way we'll do the job faster. Yeah, sure. But there are only 2 baskets, said Lena humbly. Oh, you're right. My bad. So how are we going to split up then? Probably shouldn't leave Lena alone. I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna pick. I think I went with Slavia. I didn't want to walk here alone, and I hoped that Slavia would join me, but I couldn't bring myself to ask. Well, it's obvious. One basket for me, one for you two. No, let me go with you. Slavia smiled. Okay. I was a bit surprised, but I was also glad that it turned out like this. Lena seemed to take no offense at all. The reaping has commenced. Yeah! The strawberries were delicious here indeed. I could probably eat them all myself if I didn't stop myself in time. Despite being wild grown, the strawberries were close to the garden ones in size and had a rich red color, so it was clear that our visit here wasn't in vain. Slavia was walking right beside me, as we had only one basket. I felt like a mushroom picker, looking under every shrub and searching through the grass carefully. Pay attention. An entire bunch of strawberries had been left behind. Ah, yeah, I'm sorry. It's fine. You must enjoy being here, don't you? You like nature, after all. Of course I do. Slavia smiled. It reminds me of my home. We have very similar beautiful birches there. She gazed dreamily somewhere into the distance. Look, I've always wanted to ask, what do you like in general? You look busy 24/7, and it seems like you have no time to rest at all. She started to think. I don't know, really. Doing a variety of activities is enjoyable for me. Well, that's understandable, but still. I like knitting and sewing, things like that. Slavia took a handkerchief out of her pocket. Yeah, it's handkerchief. There were red, yellow, and green flowers embroidered on it. They were entangled with each other in a complicated way, creating sophisticated geometric forms. Such a typical Russian handmade handkerchief. Glimpsing it, I instantly imagined Slavia dressed in an ancient sarafan, sitting on a bench beside a ramshackle house with a crowd of playing children running around. It's quite cute. Thanks. Let me give it to you as a gift. Such a proposal embarrassed me. You shouldn't. No, take it. I looked at the handkerchief once again and put it into my pocket. Thank you. There were so many strawberries here that after a mere half an hour we had the basket filled up to the brim. It seems like we're done. Yes. We've got a lot, so it should surely be enough. When we got back to the boat, Lena wasn't there yet. She'd need more time to fill the basket by herself. Yeah, I guess so. I looked at the river. Sun sparkles happily dancing across the water surface. Sun sparkles happily dancing across the water surface were the only thing that distinguished it from a mirror. That's how calm the river seemed. What are you thinking about? Nothing, really. And you? Me? What will happen once vacation is over? We'll have to leave this camp and go back to our homes. Will I ever see anyone I met here again? Will I ever see you again? She looked at me with her eyes so full of sorrow that I couldn't think of what to say. Lena came out of nowhere, breaking the silence and ruining the moment. "Oh, you're done already. Here." She showed us a basket full of strawberries. "Great. Now we can go back." And I still had Slavia's face and those words of hers on my mind. Sadness and sorrow weren't the kinds of emotions typical of her. Could she be hiding them all the time under a mask of cheerfulness? I had no answer to this question, and I knew I couldn't find one either way. Maybe later. The way back took less time as I tried to concentrate on rowing and ignoring everything else. My only wish was to get back alive, as the first trip hadn't gone without consequences, and now my hands started to hurt after only a few sweeps of the oars. Having tied up the boat, I fell to the ground with no energy left. Slavia and Lena leaned over me. "You could have said something if it was so hard for you." "Yes." Nope, that's the wrong voice, but oh well. Only one word. "Never mind, it's fine. I'll just lie here for a bit, and everything will be all right." "Okay, then get those baskets to Olga Dimitrievna, please. We have something else to do." "Yeah, sure." I was ready to agree with everything at that moment, just so I wouldn't have to get up. Slavia put the baskets full of strawberries next to me and headed to the square, happily chatting with Lena about something. Oh, the hardest part is done anyway. That's what I thought before I got up and took the baskets. After the rowing, they felt like cement bags, even while weighing barely more than a few kilograms each. So the trip to the camp leader's cabin took much longer than usual. I had to stop every 50 meters to have a rest. Once I finally made it, I put the baskets on the ground and sat on the deck chair with difficulty. "Olga Dimitrievna, Olga Dimitrievna, I've got presents for you." There was no answer. I barely managed to get up and enter the cabin. There was nobody there. "If you don't need them, it's up to you." I lay down on the deck chair and fell asleep. Oh, fun. That's a fun image. Look at this. I had a weird dream about a strawberry race. I was rowing a boat with my last ounces of strength, trying to escape huge berries that were chasing me. My hands were failing me, and I could barely see anything because of the sweat covering my face. Now hold on a minute. I'm looking at this and I know boats. This is the front of the boat. The front of the boat should be behind him if he's rowing away from them, right? Unless it's... I guess it's not a rowboat that has a flat... You know what? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's me not realizing that there's a tip on both sides. But I looked at this and I assumed this would be flat back here. And I'm like, why is he rowing towards him? But no, now I see it. Anyways, where were we? Blood was hammering in my temples, but the strawberries were getting closer. They were baring their teeth at me. But wait, strawberries with teeth? Semyon, Semyon. I woke up. Olga Dimitrievna was standing beside me, shaking my shoulder. "I see you got a rich harvest, didn't you?" Yeah, let's give him credit. "Okay, but that's not all." Seriously, I was just anticipating the lovely rest I was about to have. "Do you even know what these strawberries are for?" Not a clue. What an honest confession. " 'We'll make a cake out of them.'" "I see. Well, that makes sense. To honor the miraculous rescue of Shurik. And it's all thanks to you. It was clear that getting the strawberries wasn't the last thing left to do. And why, please tell me, if I am such a hero, why do I have to organize a celebration in my name all by myself? Well, I guess. So, I have an important task for you. We are missing yeast, flour, and sugar. And I need it all in the canteen before dinner. And those who make the cake can't deal with it on their own somehow? I asked pitifully. Of course they can't. All of them are busy, and you are the only one in the camp who does nothing. While her words were partly true, it doesn't make it any easier for me now. Moreover, those words felt like a bullet to my head. So, write it down. You'll get yeast in the infirmary, flour in the library, and sugar in the clubhouse. Wait. I have no time. I'm in a hurry. Good luck. This is making me think that this is a simulated virtual game, because why am I going to the infirmary for yeast? Why am I going to the clubhouse for sugar? What's electronic doing in there? She smiled slyly and left. Of course, there are a lot of strange things in this camp, but yeast in the infirmary? Okay, I can deal with that, but flour in the library? And sugar? No, it's way beyond my comprehension. I spat on the floor. I don't want to, and I will not believe this. Just tell me you're pulling my leg. Broseph I would have joined you by now if it weren't for my toilet being impossible to unclog. I'm having some, difficulties myself in this game. I'm dreaming about big strawberries devouring me with their teeth. Just tell me you're pulling my leg. I would not be surprised if a crowd of fat green trolls would appear here right now beside me, with every one of them feeling obligated to laugh at me. So maybe to hell with this cake. I weighed my options for some time. No, if such a major plan of Olga Dimitrievna's fell through, I'd be in for a world of hurt. And it would complicate both my life in the camp and my search for answers, which I've stopped for quite a while. It seems I have no choice. All right, hold on. So it was yeast in the infirmary, flour in the library, and sugar in the clubhouse. I suppose we could just do them in the order that we were given to get them. I feel like I've visited the infirmary too often recently. But what can I do? That's how things pan out. I sighed and knocked on the door. Come in, the nurse said with a trace of a sing-song accent. Good afternoon. Olga Dimitrievna has sent me to get some... I hesitated slightly. Yeast. Oh, sure. She gave me a broad smile. It's just that I don't have any. Pioneer. How so? She said that... Well, I had some, but now there's none left. I didn't even bother asking why she had it in the first place. Well, don't you worry. You can have some aspirin, for example. That could be of some use to me, actually. Where do I get it, then? I sighed. Take this. She opened the drawer and pulled out some kind of bottle. I take a closer look. Ostankinskoy. Ostanskino? That's how I'm going to pronounce it. It was an Ostanskino beer. Ellipse. What's the matter? Beer is also a fermented product. She gave me a deep gaze. Nobody will even notice. She had a point, but everything looked so grotesque to me that I couldn't find anything to say. Beer cake? Are you sure? Absolutely. Okay, then. The bottle clearly wouldn't fit into the pocket of my shorts. Well, thanks. I mumbled shyly, leaving the infirmary. Go to the infirmary, get a beer. We're in Russia, folks. Well, beer certainly could replace yeast. Even my limited knowledge of chemistry and biology was enough to accept this. But generally, walking around with this bottle in my hands looked like a silly idea to me, so I decided to bring it to Olga Dimitrievna's cabin and hide it there. But I had to reach it somehow without anybody noticing the beer. I hid the bottle under my shirt. And everything would have been fine, but Slavia called out to me at the square. I don't think you need to hide it. I think you just need to explain why you have it, and I think that'd be fine. Actually, she sprang out from behind me so suddenly that I even gave a start. How's it going? What exactly? Your search for ingredients. Ah, so you know already. Yes, I do. Slavia smiled. It's going all right. I answered, trying not to give away my unrest. And what do you have there? She pointed at the bottle sticking out from under my shirt. Ah, this. She got me. Oh, it's nothing. I blushed with a silly giggle. It's time to go. I was almost running, leaving the square with the puzzled Slavia behind. It's great that she is one of those people who don't ask unnecessary questions. But there are people in this camp who like nothing better than to poke their noses into other people's business. Passing the pioneer's cabin, I stumbled upon Uliana. What are you hiding there? She gave me one of her cheeky looks. I thought there was no point in denying anything, so I replied in a provocative manner. It's none of your business. I'm a cipher officer bearing a message to headquarters. That's certainly a big message. I was carrying the bottle at waist height, so I was slightly embarrassed. You want some help? I'll deal with it on my own. He's so real for that. I walked past her confidently and proceeded on my way. To my surprise, she didn't say anything, nor try to pursue me. There was nobody at Olga Dimitrievna's cabin, so I successfully managed to stuff the bottle under my bed. Once I got outside, I sighed with relief. Really, I couldn't believe that I would ever worry that much about a single bottle of beer. Like I was back in high school. It's a good thing it's safe now. Even if somebody finds it, I'll claim that it's not mine. I could always think up a suitable excuse from my enormous experience. Okay. Next was flour in the library. If every other place on the cake, if every other place on the cake ingredient list made at least some sense to me, then flour in the library made none. I thought hard about who would put it in the library and why, but couldn't find any sane explanation after all. Given Zhenya's harsh nature, I'd better knock first. Open. Zhenya peered at me closely from behind her glasses. What do you want? Don't think anything weird. but I didn't want to look like an idiot and decided to explain things carefully. I need some flour. Olga Dimitrievna said that it's here. I understand that it sounds strange to keep the flour in the library, but I was sent to you, and it's needed for a cake to celebrate Shurek's rescue. Yes, I have the flour. What's so strange about it? Zhenya replied with surprise. At that second, I felt like I'd been hit on the head with a heavy weight and lost the ability to understand anything at all. Flour in the library. Sure, what's so strange about it? We're in Wonderland, I'm Alice, and now I'm gonna eat that magic mushroom and I'll be back home. Hey. Yeah? I was daydreaming. Wait here, I'll be right back. She disappeared behind the bookshelves while I folded my hands and started waiting. A moment later, the sound of a trapdoor groaning on its hinges reached me. Hey, you need some help? I inquired loudly. I'll deal with it. Zhenya barked out to me. It seems to be in the basement, so I'll have to wait a little. Okie dokie. A few minutes passed, but Zhenya still hadn't returned. I was starting to get worried when the door was suddenly flung open and Alisa came into the library. She looked surprised too, seeing me here. What are you doing here? Am I not allowed to be here? I said rudely to her. Alisa was clearly a bit overwhelmed. How? What do I care? She snorted and headed to Zhenya's table. And why are you here then? Alisa measured me with her eyes carefully and almost opened her mouth to say something, but then seemed to change her mind and turned away, hiding her hands behind her back. Returning a book? I blurted out the first thing off the top of my head. It's none of your business, she replied with a hint of hesitation. What book is it? It's the Anarchist Cookbook, viewers. Alisa was silent. Oh, come on, let me see it. I wonder what Miss High Voltage Keep Away reads. It's none of your business. Her voice was even less confident. Okay. I don't insist or anything. In fact, I was quite interested to find out what Alisa was reading. Moreover, I was quite amused to see a book in her hands. TV, movies, or a computer, if one were available here. All these things seemed to be much more appropriate entertainment for a girl like her. But she had a book instead. You know what? I gotta know. My curiosity won. I struck at the right moment, when Alisa was looking away from me, and I snatched the book. Ouch! She screamed. In the following second, her face took on such an expression that it made me question my decision. If I'm about to die, at least I will know what for. I held a copy of Gone with the Wind in my hands. It was that same book that Lena was reading that evening on a bench. I was so astonished that I completely forgot about my immediate death. Is it interesting? Yeah. Alisa answered without any enthusiasm, blushing. Okay then. I handed the book back to her. Alisa threw it on the table and left the library quickly without looking at me. So, human things weren't alien to her. In the end, she too is a girl. After a quick review of everything that just happened, I concluded that there was actually nothing that strange. Finally, Zhenya's deep groan rang out, reaching each and every corner of the library. Grab it. I passed by the bookshelves and beheld the perspiring librarian sitting near the trap door leading into the basement with a small sack next to her. Well, they might have some sort of storehouse down there. Thanks. I took the sack and left the library. Thank goodness it wasn't too heavy, so I carried it down to Olga Dimitrievna's cabin without too much effort. All right, one more ingredient. Clubhouse sugar. Here we go. It feels like I've gone through more things today than all the previous days combined. Thus, approaching the clubhouse, I'd even forgotten to think how awkward it must be to look for sugar there. Okay. I don't like that. Shurik and Electronic were enthusiastically building something. They were so busy that they didn't even notice me. I looked closely. It was some kind of robot, or at least the body of one. Moreover, this robot was female and had animal ears. I didn't want to make up theories about the purpose of such a device for luminaries of camp cybernetics. Even though the design looked practically workable, I had my doubts about this robot ever being able to conquer Earth, or at least being able to do anything on its own. But they seemed to be enjoying the process more than the end result itself. And that was something we shared, even though I didn't want to admit it. On the other hand, they weren't afraid of possible failure, criticism, or jokes. They were working towards their goal without paying attention to others, who would call it unrealistic or even absurd. I don't like the weird, guilty face he's making, though. Oh, it looks like I'm truly comparing them to luminaries of the sciences. Hey, guys, I greeted them uncertainly. Oh, Semyon, come in. We're always glad to see you. I was actually already inside. You know, sorry for what happened yesterday. I barely remember anything, but, well, never mind. It's okay. And what brings you to our humble abode? Electronic looked at me slyly. Sometimes I feel he makes such a face when he knows something about the other person. Something he can use in a right moment. Sugar. I need sugar. An image from an ancient video game suddenly came into my mind, where some kind of unit like a builder or something cried out with all of its 5-pixel stature, "Gold! We need more gold!" "We got it," said Electronic calmly. "Why would you want it?" I felt that I shouldn't explain to Shurik that they want to bake a cake for him. I shouldn't spoil the surprise. I don't know. Olga Dimitrievna told me to get some. Okay, hang on. Electronic disappeared behind the door into the next room. And why do you have sugar here? Why not in the canteen? When the food truck came last time, it was the last thing to unload. And given that our building is the closest one to the entrance, they decided to leave it here to save some effort. That's reasonable, isn't it? The door opened, revealing Electronic hauling a huge bag behind him. I really don't know what the size of the cake will be, but that's obviously too much sugar. Wow, thanks, but I don't need it all. But where would we put it? Electronic gave me a surprised look. We don't have a place for it. You asked for sugar, so take it. It seemed that previous smile of his wasn't there without a reason. Maybe you'll help me then? It's not that far to carry. We're busy. He pointed his hand at the robot. I gazed at Shurek. He owed me, after all. He hesitated, then looked away in shame. I sighed, took the bag, and headed to the door. Thanks anyway, I said at parting, exerting myself. But I didn't make it too far. Just after a mere 20 meters, I had to put the bag down to have a rest. I had no idea how much it weighed, but it felt like more than 20 kilos. On the one hand, it was just 2 meters to the canteen. 200 meters to the canteen, rather. On the other hand, even such a distance with this payload on my shoulder, or alternatively in my hands, or on my legs, or under my arm, or even on my head, looked impossible for me to cover. And as I resigned myself to move in minor sprints with prolonged pauses between them, so I could get there by night at least, I heard a voice behind me. Maybe I could help you? I saw Lena in front of me. I don't think you can. It was one of those moments when I felt how painfully, how dramatically I was out of shape. I can bring a handcart. A handcart. Why didn't I think of that myself? Yes, that would be great. Wait here. I'll be right back. She smiled and ran in the direction of the square. What would I do without her? It's good that Lena isn't always that shy and can take the initiative sometimes. I started to think. She seemed quite unusual now, with no trace of shyness on her face, and actually the complete opposite. Smiles and confidence. An offer of help wasn't something extraordinary by itself, but getting it from Lena. A few minutes later, she came back with a smallish handcart. I put the bag down on it. Thanks. Don't mention it. She blushed and looked down. Oh, the Lena we all know is back. So I'll go then. Yes, see you. And thank you again. I shouted after her. Sometimes I felt like there are two different people living inside of Lena. But the second one, confident, happy, and sometimes even bold, only appears when she talks to me. Or am I just making things up again? I thought it would be better if I get all the ingredients at once, so I headed to Olga Dimitrievna's cabin with the handcart. Finally, it seems that everything had been collected. I took the handcart with sugar outside and put the sack with the flour in it, followed by the 2 baskets of strawberries that somehow fitted in between. And the beer was hidden under my shirt, just in case. The day was coming to its end, so I had to hurry, as the cake itself will need some time to bake. Of course, I'd rather enjoy lying down, closing my eyes and getting a decent sleep, but I just couldn't let Olga Dimitrievna down. Indeed, after all the trouble I'd gone to, I even felt personally responsible for the success of this event. Coming to the square, I stopped for a moment to catch my breath. It wasn't that the cart was heavy. It wasn't that the cart that was heavy. It ran smoothly without any noticeable effort required. It was just that any physical exertion caused pain to me now, both a physical and mental one. I sat down on the bench and closed my eyes for a moment. What's that? I didn't really give a damn who it was. Probably just a fellow pioneer girl taking an interest in the unfamiliar companion in distress. What are you talking about? I asked her tiredly. She didn't reply. Those are the ingredients for a cake. Do you like cakes? I don't know. What? You've never tried cake? I don't know. Obviously, the girl didn't get what I was talking about, but it didn't surprise me in that moment. I really wasn't interested in the conversation. I was so tired that I had zero intention of classifying external distractions and tagging them as either common or uncommon. I see. Come down to the canteen later and have a bite. Really? Really. And what are they made of? What? I asked indifferently. These cakes. Well, some flour, some sugar, various fillings. Now that's a strange question. Doesn't she know what cakes are made of? And you have it all here? Yeah, sort of. And sugar. And sugar. Could you lend me a little? What for? I thought it was over the top. I don't know what that was. I think this guy's losing it. A sudden gust of wind made me grab the cart instinctively and open my eyes. However, nobody was there. Am I daydreaming? I noticed, though, that the sugar sack was untied and a small heap of it had poured out. Could it be that she was scared by the wind and ran away? Having fixed the sack, I got up from the bench and continued on my challenging strawberry way. There wasn't a single person near the canteen. No wonder. Dinner was still an hour away. I brought the handcart to the rear exit and handed the foodstuffs to the camp cook. She must have already been told what to do with them, as she gave me such an unpleasant look. I'm not sure how long it takes to bake a cake, but it seems she had to hurry. I just wanted to relax for the remaining time up until dinner. In short, I was so tired that I just sat on the steps and waited. My eyes closed themselves. I guess I got so tired throughout the day that I didn't even notice how someone came up to me until they patted me on the shoulder. Hi! Miku was standing before me. Yeah, I didn't need a mirror to imagine the expression of skepticism and annoyance on my face. Oh, excuse me, I must have interrupted you. No problem. I was just sitting here. Ah, all right then. Miku beamed with a smile. I was just coming to dinner. I thought it's that time already, and then it appeared to me that it's too early, but I decided to check just in case. Maybe it's not me who's mistaken, but the clock is. Well, not the clock. Clocks can't be mistaken. It's just that I misread it. She seemed to be ultimately confused now and fell silent. It's still about a half an hour before dinner. Oh, that's great. Then I'll just sit here and wait with you if you don't mind. Frankly speaking, I do mind. You know, I have some matters to attend to. I stood up quickly and left without saying goodbye, ignoring Miku as I always did, while she screamed something after me. A minute later, I got to the square and sat on the bench with the firm intention of finding a quiet and safe place here to wait for dinner. I think this is the first time in the last 4.5 days that I felt like this. I wasn't just irritated because of some insignificant details, but, indeed, I was really angry. I've completely stopped caring about where I am and why I am here. I don't care about how to get out either. What's driving me mad is that I always have to carry out some stupid task given by our camp leader, and it's always me who gets into stupid situations and sometimes even ends up looking like a clown. If all of this is some alien trick, or a plot of the universal mind, then they better consult with their psychiatrist. I gritted my teeth and clenched my fists. And the most annoying thing is that everything that happens seems to happen by itself somehow. I'd be happier not having to carry around bags of sugar that weigh a ton, but I had no choice at all. I mean, any other option would lead to much worse consequences than a muscle strain or hurt pride.
Who are you angry with?
Uliana was standing in front of me and smiled slyly. A phrase that is used for lots of characters, I'm noticing. Nobody, really. I answered, absently. But my fists gave me away. Just like that.
Okay, it's up to you. You better tell me, why did you run around the camp the whole day with some kind of bags?
I had to, I replied, reluctantly.
I guess it was food.
Maybe it was. Uliana was about to say something, but at that moment the bell rang, calling the pioneers for dinner. I sighed in relief and quickly headed to the canteen, leaving Uliana behind. Semyon, thank you very much. For what? The camp leader gave me a friendly smile. For the cake, of course. Ah, sure. It was at that exact moment that I understood the true meaning of the saying, keep your thanks to feed your cat. You didn't tell anybody. This ought to be a surprise. Yeah, that's my boy. And now off you go to dinner. Olga Dimitrievna waved her hand, pointing at the canteen. I stepped through the doorway slowly and started to look for a free place. It turned out there were plenty today, so I got the chance to eat all alone. There was fish with mashed potatoes for dinner. What misfortune once again. I'll be left half hungry. And didn't we have fish for lunch? Is it a fish-only day today? Having pushed my plate with the fried sea dweller away, I laid my head on my hands and closed my eyes. But soon, somebody came up to the table. Hey, are you all right? I'm fine, I replied without changing my position. Just tired? Yeah, a little. That's bad. Slavia said it seriously. Of course. You remember that we are going for the hike after dinner, don't you? Haven't you prepared everything? What? Where? I opened my eyes and lifted my head up instantly. Lena was standing by Slavia. The hike. She was surprised. Didn't you know? No. I put my head down on the table and covered it with my hands. If only I could sink into the ground right away. The girls remained silent. I was left alone with my thoughts for some time, and that was fine by me. Maybe I could have sat that way until the end of dinner time, but the strong voice of Olga Dimitrievna was heard from the opposite end of canteen. Guys, to celebrate the miraculous rescue of our friend and comrade Shurek, we baked this cake for you all. I lifted my head idly and looked towards the camp leader, but couldn't see anything beyond the pioneers' backs. A second, just a second, and nothing about me. Nothing about me rescuing Shurek or gathering the ingredients for the cake. As if that's how it ought to be. Well, it would be wrong to expect anything else from our camp leader. Let's go. or we won't get our share. Slavia smiled.
Let's go.
Lena agreed. Yeah, sure. I got up reluctantly and tagged along behind the girls. As we approached the crowd of pioneers, Olga Dimitrievna was just putting the cake in the center of the table. And now... That's not enough cake for the entire camp. The camp leader wasn't able to finish as Uliana rushed out from the pioneer crowd and dived into the cake. Dove? Dived? She managed to nibble it a few times before she was pulled away. She was kicking and screaming. I stared blankly from the outside at all this drama. Alisa smiling, Lena picking up some cream with her finger, all the furious pioneers around. I felt completely out of place here. I thought that if I close my eyes now and open them again, here I am, back to the safety of my apartment in front of a computer. I blinked, but nothing changed. Only the noise and the confusion became sharper. Uliana, that's the limit.
I just...
Well, in fact, behaving like this is a bit over the top even for her. I pronounced fact like I pronounced Uliana. Fully act. Shurek broke into the conversation. Or is it a court-martial? Please, Olga Dimitrievna, since the cake is celebrating my return, it's no big deal. He hesitated. It doesn't matter. The camp leader turned to Uliana. And you. Today I'm going to punish you to the fullest extent, so you'll behave next time.
Whatever.
She snorted and turned back. You won't be going on the hike with us tonight.
As if I wanted to.
I was more than willing to switch places with Uliana and skip the hike instead of her. But who knew? If I had have guessed beforehand, I'd have been the first one to go berserk and smash the damn cake. After a couple minutes of confusion, the pioneers started to disperse. You have to get ready, too. There'll be a lineup at the square in half an hour. I looked straight into the eyes of the camp leader, trying to express my attitude non-verbally, but it seems that I failed. Don't be late. Uliana was sitting at the table when I approached her on my way to the exit. So why did you do it? She looked very upset. But she had the right to be so.
I wanted to.
Uliana replied abruptly. So, you're happy now?
Of course I am. And you, good luck with the hiking.
She smiled mischievously, sprang up and rushed out of the canteen. Well, a little bit of luck wouldn't hurt. Walk, and you shall reach. It was exactly this proverb that kept whirling in my head all the way down to the camp leader's cabin. Somehow, I just couldn't manage to argue, to pretend that I'm sick, or just to skip it without a reason. The events of this day taught me submissiveness. Although, sometimes whatever was happening made no sense to me. As I walked in, I had a thought. Well, in fact, how should I get ready? Clothes? I only have an overcoat and a pair of jeans. Anyway, I forgot to ask whether it's going to be an overnight hike or not. I couldn't think of anything better, so I grabbed the sweater that I had on me when I've arrived in the camp. The night might be fairly chilly, and shuffled slowly off to the square. All the camp was already there, although it was about 10 minutes before the time Olga Dimitrievna had designated. I settled down near the edge and waited patiently. Night was falling. If viewed from the outside, what a fairly comical picture we could make. A crowd of pioneers, lined up out of sheer habit, like they were awaiting a silent command from the bronze Genda. And all of this happening in the scarlet rays of the sunset. And there he is, waving his hand and screaming attack as roaring soldiers with red neckerchiefs charge into the battle against some ghostly enemy. But Olga Dimitrievna showed up and started to talk instead of Genda. It seems everybody is here. Great. I was so tired today that I couldn't even think about anything, so I ended up just listening to the camp leader. Now, today we'll go hiking. It is essential for every pioneer to be able to come and rescue his comrade, to offer a helping hand in an hour of need, saving them from a hopeless situation. We have to learn to do all these things together. A whisper that ran through the pioneer crowd suggested that most probably this truly epic expedition would end in a clearing in the forest, several hundred feet away from the square. Somehow, I thought so too. We'll walk in pairs. So, if you haven't chosen a partner for yourself yet, now's the right time to do so. Pioneers quickly caught on to the idea and started to match in pairs. It looked like I was the only one without a partner. Slavia was enthusiastically discussing something with Olga Dimitrievna. Lena was with Miku. Electronic was, of course, with Shurik. Well, it might not be a bad idea to go alone after all. Semyon. The voice of the camp leader pulled me out of my thoughts. I went up to her reluctantly. I see that you haven't found a partner. Seems like it. Then you'll join Zhenya. She is alone too. I was struck with that special kind of despair that only a true loner can experience. So it appears that I'm left with the prickly librarian that I wouldn't risk spending a couple of hours with even if I was paid for it. Although, we both seem to be in the same boat now. I slowly approached Zhenya. Well, I guess we'll be going together. She looked up at me. Don't you even think that I'm glad, said Zhenya seriously. Why on earth you should feel glad? I asked naively. Never mind. It would be much better if you'd just shut up. It couldn't get any better than this. She turned her back on me and followed the other pioneers. I still haven't seen any special reason to walk in pairs. Anyways, we were walking on the well-trodden forest trails, and it would be quite difficult to get lost here, even if I wanted to. Moreover, while we'd already been hiking for half an hour, we weren't rushing into the depths of the forest, trying to face all the dangers that could test our courage and harden our pioneer spirits. But instead, we're just walking around in circles. However, if we take into account that Olga Dimitrievna was our chief, a hike like this could be compared to a hobbit's march from the Shire to Mordor. Just as Zhenya insisted, I was following her at a distance in silence. The librarian seemed to be perfectly okay with it. Hey, don't you know when we'll reach our destination? Our what? Ahem. The place where we'll settle down and set up camp. The whole point of this hike isn't to set up a camp, but the hiking itself. You don't get it. Yeah, it seemed that I didn't understand a thing about hiking. I guess you're right, but still. I don't know. She replied sharply and quickened her pace. I caught up with her and asked, Listen, why are you always so... I was about to say mean, but stopped short. I haven't done anything bad to you, and I'm not going to. She glared at me in surprise. Always so. What? Well, unsociable, kind of. Or is it something about me? Oh, cut that stupidity out already. As you wish. I decided not to start a conversation with her for the rest of the hike. At last, Olga Dmitrievna decided to end this Sisyphean toil. That's the word. It's time to halt. The place chosen turned out to be quite a large glade, with a few trees laid in a half circle to make an improvised arbor, with the remains of a campfire in the middle. Obviously, such hikes are a tradition of this camp. I was sent to gather firewood together with the other boys. It didn't take long because there were a lot of branches and logs of various sizes lying around. Eventually, Olga Dmitrievna lit the fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but couldn't discern anything other than Soviet symbols. Pioneers took their places on the fallen log benches and started to talk about things. It seems that the final goal of this event had been achieved. The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminum cups of vodka, and a guitar. But I wouldn't be surprised if all these things would appear somehow. What are you thinking about? Slavia sat next to me. Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike. I answered sarcastically. You don't look too happy. Well, I'm not about to jump for joy. Sorry about that. Okay, I won't disturb you. She sat with me for a while, but after realizing I wasn't in the mood of talking, she left me to enjoy my introspection all alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible. But I was being surrounded by smoke and the useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing and in general enjoying this warm summer evening. In the far side of the glade, I noticed Lena was arguing with Alisa intensely. Intensely and Lena seemed like complete opposites to me. Slavia had left to go somewhere after our conversation, it seems. Electronic and Shurik were trying furiously to prove something to Olga Dmitrievna. Looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. Let's see. We have options. Do nothing or find out what they're arguing about. You know what? We're going to do nothing. All I was doing was just watching the fire. There is a saying that claims one could watch it forever, as well as running water. But there was also some third thing there. What was that? One could watch three things forever: burning fire, running water, and how other people work. The camp leader pulled me out of my daydreaming. Semyon, don't you think it's too early to relax? But what else would I need to do? I honestly couldn't get what Olga Dmitrievna wanted from me. I don't know. She stopped for a moment. But if there is something to be done, then do it without hesitation. Is this the game telling me I should listen to them argue? She smiled ambiguously, and went back to the fire to throw a few branches on. After those words, I am completely sure that she treats me like a personal slave. Or at least, like I'm a free labor's force, which is, strictly speaking, the same thing. I sighed and put my head down on my hands, hoping my torments would be over for today. Someone patted me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw Shurik and Electronic, who sat next to me. "What do you want?" I asked, tiredly. Don't be sad. Is there anything better to do?" "Look, we've been discussing the possibilities for the advancement of the Cybernetics Club with Olga Dimitrievna. And there is a problem. We need more guys. If you could..." He hesitated. "Advancement and these guys are incompatible with each other." I said nothing and started to look over the pioneers around me instead. "Well?" "I don't have time. Can't you see that I'm always busy with the camp leader's errands?" "Yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of embarrassing how it all went today with Uliana." I looked at him with surprise. It seems that Shurik blames himself for that cake accident. "Yeah, it is. All the pioneers seem to be here, but I couldn't spot Slavia anywhere." "I think she is angry with me." "Who?" I asked absently. "Uliana. Maybe I should apologize." "No, it's not your fault." We sat silently for a while. Then I stood up and said, "My legs are numb. I better take a walk." They made no reply. I made a few circles around our improvised camp, noticing the close looks of the camp leader following me. Looks like Olga Dimitrievna couldn't wait to come up with some kind of new task for me. I haven't found Slavia anywhere. Maybe I should go try to find her. On the other hand, I felt sorry for Uliana every time I recalled her upset face. Maybe this hike isn't the most entertaining thing ever, but sitting there all alone isn't any better either. But at the same time, I didn't want to go anywhere. Let's slab it up. I was absolutely sure that Slavia was all right, so I decided to stay. I guess that's enough for me for today. This feels like a different choice than what I picked, but here we are. I sat in my previous place and waited for the end of the hike patiently, almost physically able to feel the looks of the camp leader aimed at me. At last she stood up and declared, "And now let's play cities." I had nothing against the game itself, but it was obvious that the hike will take longer because of it. Pioneers sat around the fire. I noticed Lena and Alisa, who took their places on a trunk opposite me. It seems that everything is all right. And just a few minutes ago, I thought the opposite while looking at their quarrel. But anything is possible. I'd really like to know what they were talking about, but it's impossible now, and I could feel tiredness growing in me more and more. My mind was completely blank. To be precise, my head was so heavy that there was no place in it for ideas to unfold. While in my better times, my brain appeared to be a wide highway with millions of thoughts running by, chasing one another and causing major crashes. Now, it was more like a footpath lost in the woods, which is used rarely and only in exceptional cases. Slavia didn't come back. Maybe she had something to do. But, once again, there's no way to find out now. Okay, let's start. Moscow. Pioneers started to name cities. Finally, it was my turn. I tried to listen closely to catch the first letter of the city I'll have to use. Oh boy. Arkhangelsk. Arkhangelsk? We played several rounds. Each new city name made it harder to remember everything that was mentioned before. My attention was dissipating, and I was already lost in all these capitals, megalopolises, villages, and urban settlements. Semyon, Semyon, it's your turn. Olga Dimitrievna brought me back to reality. Oh, excuse me. And what was the last one? You're daydreaming again. It was Sevastopol. Okay, then I'll say London. Already used. Well then, it got me thinking. There were tons of cities in the world starting with L, but it was hard to remember even one of them now. I'd say Liverpool? Hey, I called it. Liverpool. Already there. Los Angeles. Ah, finally. She gave me a scornful look, but the game went on. I could hardly bear to think of another city starting with L, but fortunately, it was the last round. Okay, that's enough for today. It's already late. Time to go back. I sighed with relief. On our way back, we walked in. Oh, on our way back, we walked as we liked without joining in pairs. Night descended upon a camp. A perfectly regular and normal night. It was one of those nights when dark skies, stars, and even a crescent moon didn't cause any special feelings, and the chirping of crickets and the songs of the night birds seemed more like routine work noises than a nocturnal chorus. Ellipse. In a few minutes, all the pioneers were lining up in the square. It was quite late already, and fatigue took its toll, so our lineup wasn't perfectly aligned. It looked to me like a line of Vikings after a successful battle where the warriors are happy and smiling, anticipating their return to their families rather than thinking about maintaining correct formation. But someone else could possibly see a completely defeated troop, or a bunch of supervisors who have to march to their homeland with the last of their strength. Supervisors, that's survivors, my goodness. Thanks, everyone. And now go to sleep. It's late already. Pioneers quickly each ran their own ways, and I was left together with the camp leader. And we should go too. We went in complete silence to Olga Dimitrievna's cabin. Okay, let's sleep, she said, turning off the light. I was tossing and turning for quite a while, recalling all the events of the day. On the one hand, I was overcome with fatigue. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd forgotten something, done something wrong, said something wrong. It was this feeling of incompleteness this feeling of incompleteness was tormenting me. It was about 2 a.m. All the bad things would end, sooner or later. Or at least would take a break. Speaking of taking something, I'm going to take another drink. I fell asleep. Day 6. All right, let's save the game as we always do. Which one is it? Save game. I don't know what time it was when Olga Dimitrievna woke me up, but even before opening my eyes, I felt the imminence of death. My whole body ached, I felt dizzy, and my mind was clouded by haze. Semyon, wake up immediately or you'll miss breakfast, and, more importantly, the lineup. Looks like the camp leader intends to exploit me to the fullest today, same as any other day. I garbled something, covered my head with the blanket, and turned to the wall. In the end, Olga Dimitrievna's anger will never go beyond words. At least, I really wanted to believe so then. Stand up right now, or... excuse me. Or what? I was going to say triumphantly, but kept silent. Not because of fear, just because I felt too lazy to open my mouth. Really, what could she do to me? Lecture me at the lineup, hang my photo on the wall of shame, or use me for inhuman alien experiments? Well, I'm ready for that too. Just let me sleep a couple of hours. Okay, but if you miss the lineup... The door slammed behind the camp leader, and the sleep which had been about to fade claimed my mind again. Ellipse. I woke up dazzled by sunlight. It was 1 p.m., according to my cell phone, which was squeezing the last drops of charge out of its battery. Strangely enough, my body didn't ache, my head felt clearer, and, all in all, it was a good beginning to the day. After waving my arms, pretending to do early exercises, I sprang out of the cabin and headed to the washstands. Yeah, I slept through breakfast, but we'll be served lunch soon, so I shouldn't have to worry that I'll stay hungry like I did yesterday. Along the way, I met a pioneer whose face somehow looked strangely familiar. But I was going so fast I couldn't really see him, and when I turned around he was already gone around the corner. That was weird. There was nobody near the washstands. Everybody is probably busy with Olga Dimitrievna's tasks, and God knows what else. I quickly brushed my teeth, washed my face, and was already going to leave when I suddenly heard the sound of water flowing from the opposite tap. A pioneer leaned against a washstand over there. I couldn't see his face, but judging by his figure, he looked like the one I saw a couple of minutes ago. Oh, I get to do a new voice. Okay. Huh? No, what do I want to do? How are you doing? The sun's so bright today. That's a great choice, me. I looked up into the sky, shielding my eyes with my palm. Yeah, nothing special. It wasn't easy to get a better look at the pioneer, given the way he stood. The bright sunlight that reflected from the water and the shiny metal surfaces of the washstands heavily obscured his face, and I wasn't able to distinguish any single feature. The camp leader is angry today. So angry. His voice sounded painfully familiar, too. Well, she's always like that. Well, you'd know better, yeah. I tried to remember if I've ever heard this voice or seen this pioneer before. Well, see ya. He turned the water off and quickly marched towards the forest path. For a second I thought of following him, stopping him, but I quickly fought it off as I decided it's not worth spoiling such a great morning with suspicions and burdensome speculations. Nature was glowing with the bright light of life. Lush treetops were rhythmically swaying in the wind, whispering to each other. The breeze gently stroked the high emerald grass. Birds were cooing in the shade, escaping the midday heat. The woods and the fields, stretching beneath the horizon, were dissolving in warm sunlight. I don't know which month it is now, but it looks like midsummer. I distinctly remember the summer vacations of my childhood and youth, times of fun leisure and carefree joy. Childhood games, how many there were. I wouldn't say no to playing war games or hide and seek now, or swinging on a bungee, or maybe building a sandcastle and inhabiting it with toy soldiers, ready to defend their master to the last drop of their plastic blood.
I'm so suspicious about that random guy. I'm so suspicious about what that means.
I went to the square and sat on the bench, waiting for lunch. It looked like there wasn't much time left before it. From time to time, pioneers passed by me, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs or groups of 3. But it was always someone I didn't know. Alisa, Uliana, Lena, or Slavia were nowhere to be seen. Thoughts about the meaninglessness of existence were circling in my brain, but this didn't worry me on such a beautiful day. Just think about it. Who could think of grieving for his life lived in vain, or lost early while basking in the rays of such a friendly sun? Certainly not me. I looked upon Genda. Genda? I'm going to figure out which it is, if it's a soft or a hard G. I'm going to say Genda right now, though. He was meditating, as always. Now, he definitely never gets any unnecessary doubts. I remember my first hours in this camp and the day before. The anguish, the anxiety and fear. That all seems so far away now, although so little time has passed. Will I get out of here or not? It didn't concern me as much as before. Maybe I'm already dead. Then this is the last stop. Please get off the train. What are you thinking about? I looked up and saw that pioneer I'd seen before. I couldn't see his face again, as the sun was shining in my eyes. Oh, life. It seemed he would sit down next to me, but the pioneer stayed in the same place, only half turned, which completely killed any hope of seeing his face. Listen, have we met earlier? I don't think I remember you. Well, let's say that you know who I am. But I don't. I laughed sincerely. Here, you don't. He answered short. I see. Honestly, it's not like I didn't want to talk. I just didn't know what to talk about. And my soul was so calm, this didn't bother me. Your first time here? He asked a question, but his tone implied he was only expecting a confirmation. Yes. And you? Me? He paused for a few seconds. Nah, it's not my first time here. One might say I've visited this camp every year since my early childhood. Such an answer got me interested. Well, and what was it like? Before? It's always the same. Olga Dimitrievna being the camp leader, all the same pioneers around, all the same lineups at the morning, and all these wicked accidents. For a moment I thought it was me speaking, not him. Interesting. It's just that with every new... He hesitated. Year. More and more interesting things happen, and one gets to understand better what's going on. What are you talking about? This conversation positively triggered my curiosity. It's a pity that I can't distinguish the face of this pioneer at all. Well, every session in the pioneer camp reminds me of the previous one, he said calmly. Probably. This is my first. It shows. The pioneer grinned. But it looks like it won't be the last. Well, it's fun here and all, but you know how they say, there's no place like home, but you still have to get back there. I was absolutely sure this guy was hiding something from me. To be precise, he stood out too much from the camp's usual ordinariness and was too different from the local inhabitants. What do you mean? You think I'm stuck here forever or something? I said, enunciating every word. The pioneer had no time to answer as the lunch bell sounded. I turned my head towards the loudspeaker, but by the time I looked back, the guy was already gone. Thousands of theories and speculations instantly appeared in my mind, but I stopped myself, remembering all the apparent normality of the camp. After all, nothing supernatural has happened in these 5 days. Moreover, everything here seemed too natural, sometimes even boring. Maybe this pioneer didn't mean anything by that, and I just misunderstood him. Thinking that, I went to the canteen, intending to feast. Sometimes it seemed to me that lunch here is akin to the crowds around the soup kitchens during a famine. Pioneers were running around, pushing each other, trying to crawl through for the first meal and to take the most comfortable table. I was calmly and patiently waiting for the cook to get me my assigned food rations. For lunch today we had okroshka, which I really didn't like, and cutlets with potatoes. A cold soup, okay. I sat in a corner and mentally rejoiced that I would be able to eat in peace. My table was the farthest from the kitchen. I could reasonably hope that the pioneers who were looking for a free place wouldn't reach it. Or would reach it last. However, when I moved on to the main course, Slavia, Shurik, and Electronic appeared from the crowd. Can we? I had nothing against their company. Of course. Lunch was going surprisingly calmly. Even, I knew there was a reason to mix those up, even Electronic wasn't jabbering as it usually does. I finally finished the meal, sprawled in my chair, satisfied, clicked my tongue. Listen, do you know this pioneer? I saw him today. You know, he's so... I suddenly realized that I don't really know how to describe him. Well, about my height, same constitution. Hard to say from such a description. Slavia smiled. Well, we have half a camp of such guys, if it comes to that. All in all, they were right. Why are you asking? It's just that I met him today, and it seemed like I haven't seen him here before. Look in the canteen. I don't think you'll miss lunch. Why didn't I think of that? That's it. Okay, guys, enjoy your meal. I got up and started to slowly walk around the rows of tables. Lena and Zhenya were sitting over there. I gave them a friendly smile. Alisa and Uliana are laughing and arguing about something. Olga Dimitrievna, surrounded by pioneers. Good thing she didn't notice me. There are hardly any free seats, but the guy from this morning is nowhere to be seen. The situation is getting more and more interesting. Looks like I won't find him here. Maybe he already had lunch. I headed to the exit. It was so hot outside that it seemed like you would instantly melt after coming out of the shade. I suddenly felt like sleeping. So it feels like now that he's pursuing it, it's going to make him go to bed. I'm so curious as to how much agency this guy actually has in this world, this situation. I yawned and headed to the camp leader's cabin in order to follow the domestic interpretation of the Archimedes principle. In the end, Olga Dimitrievna is unlikely to return anytime soon. At least I think so, and I will definitely have a couple hours to rest. Anyways, I really don't expect any other options to arise, especially in this heat. This guy gives up so quickly. It's almost suspicious. The heavenly coolness in the cabin became my salvation. I took my clothes off and jumped into bed. Crickets were lazily chirping outside. The wind was shaking the curtains on the window, and I sank into a dream. Ellipse. Knocking on the door woke me up. The knocks were soft but insistent. I reluctantly got up and went to open it. Strangely, there was nobody on the doorstep. I rubbed my eyes and stepped out to look around. All the same, no one around. A dream, maybe? It was already 4 o'clock. I felt jaded. I probably shouldn't have slept in the afternoon. After all, I knew what was going to happen. I put on my boots, left the cabin, and locked the door. But where shall I go? All in all, there is not much time till dinner. A sudden thought came to me that it would be nice to refresh myself. So I went towards the beach. The sun had passed the midday mark a while ago. It gets dark early here in the south. I squinted and looked up at the flaming disk. Who was that just now? I flinched. The same mysterious guy was standing in front of me. And once again, his face was hard to see due to the bright light. For a moment, the sun blinded me so I could not see anything beside the faint contours of objects. Are you stalking me? No, I was just passing by, he answered calmly. Then you should know better. So you haven't seen anyone? Correct. I rubbed my eyes, but it did not help. Why didn't I see you at lunch? I asked bluntly. I wasn't hungry, he laughed. I blinked a few times and my vision came back, but the pioneer had miraculously disappeared once again. What the hell is going on here? Now I was absolutely sure that there was something strange about that guy. He must be directly related to everything happening around here. I will have to find out. But for starters, it's good to confirm that I am not mistaken, that he is not just a local pioneer. It was quite crowded at the beach. It looked like everyone from the camp was here. Well, no wonder. It's so hot outside. Olga Dimitrievna was standing just a bit further apart from everyone, keeping an eye on her army of pioneers. As soon as I thought that coming here might not have been the best idea, she noticed me. Hey, Semyon. You weren't at the lineup, and in general you are just lounging around all day. I did not know how to answer. And just how are you planning on becoming a proper pioneer? She continued, more softly. Olga Dimitrievna, in the camp. Is there a pioneer who looks a lot like me? She looked surprised. Maybe. I don't know. Why do you ask? Oh, I am just curious. Well, we have a lot of boys here. All right, never mind. Someone's yell came from the riverside, and Olga Dimitrievna rushed in its direction. Well, it looks like I will be spared a lecture. I lowered myself onto the sand and stared at the pioneers playing in the water. After a few minutes of sitting here, Uliana approached me. Why so sad? I'm not sad. Then why are you sitting here all alone? Just thinking. About what? I decided to spare her my story about the mysterious pioneer. Well, imagine that you are chatting with a weird person, and you have to figure out what exactly is so weird about them. Simple. I would just ask them. She laughed. Too simple. But he won't answer. How do you know?
Have you tried asking?
No, but it's obvious. Uliana did not answer, just sat down next to me and let out a tired sigh.
I'm all swimmed out.
And what if they know something, but won't tell you?
Make them.
But how? For a bit longer we sat together, talking about random things, and then I got up, said goodbye, and went away. It's time to find the mysterious stranger and get all the answers. The first place to visit was the bus stop. After all, this is where it all began. The road was empty, as always. Only small dust tornadoes were occasionally visible on it. I was ready to turn around and go back to the camp, but then I heard someone whisper, "Don't trust him." Someone was hiding behind the monument. A pioneer was sitting there with his back to me, and once again the voice seemed strangely familiar. "Who are you?" I took a few steps towards him. "Stop. Don't come any closer." For some reason I froze in my tracks. From somewhere deep inside, an assurance came to me, and I understood that I shouldn't argue with him. "All right, I'll stay here." "Have you seen him? Talked to him?" he asked nervously. "Who are you even talking about?" He was dressed in a pioneer uniform. You know who. I definitely did know. He was talking about the weird pioneer I saw earlier. "Yes," I answered after a few moments of silence. "What did he tell you?" the pioneer asked in a pleading tone. "Nothing, really." "Did he give you any advice? Did he tell you what to do? Threaten you?" "No, nothing like that. Of course, he seemed pretty weird, but nothing more than that." "Remember, he may not be alone. Or more likely, he is alone, but you may meet many pioneers here who look like him." "And what about you? Who are you? Who are you hiding from?" "You will understand. In time. Just remember, the most important thing is to find the exit." Ooh, mysterious. All of a sudden, a strong gust of wind came through, ripping leaves from the trees and throwing an old paper bag into my face. Shielding myself, I averted my eyes. When I looked back at the monument, the pioneer was already gone. At that moment, I was overwhelmed by fear. Real, almost tangible fear. I remember being scared during my first hours at this camp. But back then, everything around me seemed kind and friendly. Now Sovyanok revealed its fangs, getting ready to eat me. And ahead, the unknown. My body was covered in goosebumps. My throat was dry and my hands were shaking. I tried to ignore it all and headed back to camp. It was already dinner time, but I had no desire to go to the canteen. After meeting the second mysterious pioneer, just thinking about the locals made me, if not afraid, then at least creeped out. I don't even know who or what they all are. And even though nothing had happened yet, it does not mean I can trust them. I stopped in front of the clubhouse, but then realized that this is not the best spot to be at. I could run into someone, which is not something I wanted to do at the moment. Almost running, I hurried towards the forest and walked a few meters along the path before finally stopping. On one side, the mysterious pioneer. Well, two of them to be precise. And on the other, all the other inhabitants of this camp who seemed absolutely normal. Either way, my decision to stand back and let everything resolve itself was under some serious pressure. At this point, it was clear to me. I had to do something on my own. But what exactly? Everyone is probably having a dinner, so I have a good chance to make it to Olga Dimitrievna's place without being noticed. I decided to first take my clothes that I wore when I arrived here, along with my cell phone. I won't be able to come up with a solid plan right off the bat, so for the time being, I might as well hide in the forest. I leaped up the steps and entered the building. My clothes were right where I left them, and my phone was right where it was supposed to be, under my pillow. I quickly grabbed it and was ready to stuff it into my pocket when I noticed something on the screen. The message window was open. The text read, "You're wrong, Semyon. You are so wrong." It felt like my soul had left my body. I froze on the spot. I was shaking, and my blood was pumping so hard it felt like my skull was going to burst open from the pressure. It took at least a full minute for me to come back to my senses. Olga Dimitrievna could have typed in the message, or one of the pioneers. It's easy to figure out how to do it, even if they are not familiar with this technology. But no one besides me should know where I keep the phone. This event was the straw that broke the camel's back. I rushed out of the house, determined never to come back here. Night fell on the campgrounds. I had been sitting in the woods for a few hours, trembling at every noise. The spot that I chose was far away from the path, so it would be hard to find me. I was keeping a few plans in my head for the time being. To try and run, to kill every single person in the camp. However, on the other hand, one thought chased me, and I realized that I shouldn't behave like this because of some strange pioneer, or even because of the message on that phone. All of this was reinforcing the thought that everything happening here was far from normal. However, there was no proof that anyone in the camp had anything to do with it. I could have stayed here until morning, lost in my own thoughts, but I heard footsteps coming from somewhere nearby. So you decided to escape, after all. I turned around, but couldn't see the pioneer's face in the dark. Nevertheless, I was pretty sure that it was him. I wasn't afraid then. More precisely, I was so physically exhausted that I was prepared for any possible course of events, and somehow managed to reason appropriately and to maintain the conversation. I wouldn't call this an escape. I answered slowly, stretching every word. Huh? Then what is it? A tactical retreat. Brilliant. He burst into laughter. Listen, why don't you tell me what's going on? Who are you, and what do you want from me? What did that guy tell you at the gate? It seemed that he didn't even hear my question. He told me not to trust you. I lied. But on the other hand, I thought that it was what he meant. Well, that's always the way for him. Running away, hiding. I could hear irritation in his voice. I'm not sure what kind of circus you are running here, but I'm not going to be a part of it. Oh, why not? You're the star, after all. I couldn't see his face, but I bet he was smiling. Explain my part to me then. You know, I was like you in the beginning. The first time everything went peacefully. Then I escaped. I tried to understand what was going on, got mad, and even tortured them to get the truth. He laughed crazily. Hold on, let me do one of those. Tortured them to get the truth. Something fun like that. I shivered. But it was pointless, continued the pioneer after calming down a bit. Pointless. And then I began to notice the lapses. At first, I just heard their voices from a distance, and sometimes in my head. Then vague silhouettes appeared, and they slowly took on physical form. And then finally, they stepped into my world. I could touch them, introduce them to other pioneers. And they were all different. Different, do you get it? Different. He started shouting. And then it recurred again and again. You can get used to the loops, but... And then I learned how to get into their worlds by myself, to interact with the others. But it turned out that I am not alone. There are lots of us. Today you saw at least one more. He fell silent. I didn't know what question to ask, and I didn't want to interrupt his story, so I simply waited. After a minute, he continued. It's not that simple, of course. And it's not always possible. Only under certain circumstances. When you feel strong emotions, for example. I instantly remembered how I saw him the first time. The time when I didn't feel any emotions at all. Including the moments when you feel happy. As if he was reading my thoughts. I see. So you're trying to say that there are several parallel worlds, including the same camp with its inhabitants, where I am replaced by you, or that guy I met at the bus stop? Yeah, something like that. His answer didn't surprise me at all. In the end, it's clear that whatever happens here is beyond the limits of human understanding, and this theory didn't even seem all that unusual. But you've said that everything recurs. Yes, it recurs. And what will happen afterwards? You'll start from the very beginning. You'll wake up in the bus, come to the camp, meet Olga Dimitrievna, the girls, electronic. But if it happened to you, then why should it happen to me as well? It happens to everyone. Once again, he laughed hysterically. And how many loops have you experienced so far? I stopped counting them already. At first, I tried to remember them, though. Maybe a few hundred. No wonder. It was very clear to me that this guy was suffering from a progressing mental dysfunction. But you searched for a way out, didn't you? He didn't answer. That's what the guy at the bus stop was talking about. Because he understands nothing, damn it. He shouted. Because he's just like you, constantly running away, hiding. What would you suggest then? If I had any suggestions, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you. All right, but you were trying, weren't you? Are you trying to understand what I know, since I've been around here for a long time? He asked cheerfully. Well, that's evident. Yes, I did try to run away from here. There, he waved towards the forest. Is nothing there. Nothing but trees. When I had been walking there for several days and finally passed out, I found myself in the bus again. Same for walking along the road. It's endless. Talking to somebody about that is pointless. You probably already understand that by yourself. I did. I interjected. Even if you try to explain your situation directly, at best you'd just be considered an idiot. What if you try not to leave the bus? It's pointless.
Sooner or later you'll be found. I even tried to spend the entire time there. In the end, I fell asleep, and everything started from the beginning.
And what if you started by yourself and leave?
No keys. And I didn't have any carjacking skills.
A cursed cycle.
Exactly.
A long silence fell. Finally, I asked, "And what about the people around here? Don't they raise any reasonable suspicions?"
Suspicions? The only thing that is suspicious about them is that no matter how much you tell them, they stare at you with their eyes out on stalks. The people, I feared them at first, too. Then I used them for different experiments, and now I don't consider them humans. They're all dolls. Puppets. You can easily predict any reaction, any word or action.
So they aren't worth fearing, are they?
The one worth fearing is yourself, he said softly. Do you know how funny it is when human bones crack as they slowly break from distension?
Looks like he has finally lost his marbles. Listen, I understand everything, but...
The other one thinks that's a bit much, too. But it doesn't matter. Nobody but you is real here.
The pioneer suddenly fell silent. Well, no. I don't agree with you.
You're probably thinking, why didn't I check this all by myself, aren't you? Why didn't I try to reach the nearest village or town?
Yes, I did have such thoughts.
Why wasn't I suspicious? Why was I doing different stuff instead of searching for answers?
Well, yes.
Forget about it. That's normal. We all behave like this for the first time here.
How many others have you seen so far?
Not that many.
The pioneer was lost in thought.
About 10 people, maybe. But I'm sure there are many more of them.
And is everyone like this?
In fact, yes. Only the details are different, but the main thing is invariable. There's no way out of here. And, by the way, you're just like the majority of them. The only thing that differs is that you heard everything from me instead of experiencing it for yourself.
I don't know if I should thank him for that.
Just my earphone.
Well, and what now?
Nothing, he said shortly.
I closed my eyes and lost myself in thought. That was a critical mistake. When I opened my eyes, I didn't see anybody, just like the previous times. So it's clear what's going on now. But, in fact, how could everything he said guide me to an answer? Yes, I'm not alone. Yes, everything recurs. But what's the reason for all this? And what is more important? Where's the way out? The only useful thing that I extracted from the conversation is that the local inhabitants were not worth fearing. And that was quite significant to me for now, since it was much better to sleep in a warm cabin instead of the forest. I sighed, took my things, and headed towards the camp. As I was walking, the conversation with my fellow sufferer popped up in my mind every now and then. Why did I not ask him about the message on my phone? And some other stuff. There were hints, after all. Maybe if I had found some details out, I could have drawn some conclusions. However, it didn't seem like our meeting would be the last one. The lights were on in Olga Dimitrievna's cabin. I opened the door gently and went in.
Speak of the devil, here you are. the camp leader said angrily. Olga Dimitrievna, I'm so tired now. Let's just put off the lecture. Tired from what, I wonder? From everything, I snapped rudely. The camp leader looked at me with surprise. I fell into bed without undressing. Semyon, a role model pioneer shouldn't behave like that. And how should he behave then? Well, not like that. The camp leader stumbled for a moment, as if struggling to pick the right words. He should respect his seniors. I respect you immensely, for sure. Semyon. The sarcasm in my voice didn't go unnoticed. And now I'd like to sleep. Wait, By the way, how far is the nearest town? When does the bus arrive? How can I even get out of here? I asked in a surprisingly calm voice. There was no answer, and there shouldn't have been any. I said all of this in order to get rid of her. Why are you silent? I'm tired. Let's talk about that tomorrow. The camp leader got up and turned off the light. Yes, it's just like that guy said. Why did I speak to him so calmly and properly, I wonder? I should have been shivering from horror. That pioneer didn't have much credibility, but I had a feeling that he's unable to harm me. As soon as I thought that it would be a good idea to ask something else, fatigue overtook me, and I passed out. Wow, that was a lot of information. That suspicion I had that this is some kind of loop, or I guess for lack of a better word, simulation, turned out to be pretty spot on. I'm curious about the multiverse thing. I'm wondering how that's going to play in. Let's save the game here. Day 7. It's been a week. The bright sunlight was striking my eyes, even through my eyelids. I stretched out lazily and quickly got myself out of the bed. It was 2 p.m. Looks like yesterday really finished me off, and my body required much more time to recover than usual. I had a stroll around the room, thinking of what I should do today. Obviously, my life in the camp would never be the same again after everything I'd heard from that strange pioneer. And if everything's just as he said, I have plenty of time ahead. I grabbed my hygiene kit and went outside. I managed to take only a couple of steps as somebody ran into my back. I turned around and saw Alexa. Hey, be careful, she said indifferently and ran on her way. She held some kind of bag in her hands. Oh, whatever. Yet another ordinary day in this crazy place. I finished brushing my teeth and then spent an eternity washing my face with ice-cold water to bring myself to my senses and refresh my head, at least a bit. I felt a bit better after that. Suddenly, hope struck me from nowhere. It wasn't a hope that I'd be likely to leave this place safely. Rather, I just didn't want to believe that everything is as bad as the guy told me. Good morning. I heard a faint voice coming from the woods. Someone stood behind a tree. Morning. Are you ready? Ready for what? I looked again, and it seemed like it was the pioneer from the bus stop yesterday. Indeed, I was prepared for such weirdness today, so I wasn't really surprised and started this conversation quite clear-headed. You didn't believe him, did you? What are you talking about? Everything that he said. All right, but what is your opinion on what is happening? I'd already distanced myself from the outside world and decided to treat everything happening to me like a fictional film, not reality. Hopefully, it would give me more room
to move around in terms of situational logic analysis.
There is an exit. There has to be, he said excitedly.
I don't know, but I'd like to believe that too.
If you'd just...
Semyon! I turned around. Slavia was standing right next to me. Who are you talking to? No one. Just, talking to myself. I hardly think it's worth telling her about aliens from parallel worlds. She probably can't even see them anyway. Have you prepared already? Prepared for another hike? Prepared for another hike? No. Today's the last day of the session. What? A stupid smile settled on my face. There will be a bus this evening. We're leaving. Holy cow. I was ready for even the most incredible of twists, but what was this mysterious? Was this what that mysterious pioneer was talking about? Probably it was. Well, apparently I'll have to go for a second lap and live yet another week in this camp. But this time I know everything. I haven't packed yet. It's not like I have much to pack anyway. Okay. Slavia shifted her gaze. Seemed like she wanted to say something, but hesitated. Well, see you then. Yeah. I had to ask when we're leaving at least. I went to the square with the intention of discovering that. There's got to be someone I know there. And, believe it or not, there was only Genda waiting for me at the square. Probably all the pioneers are busy with packing. I took a seat on the bench and just stared at the sky. It turns out that today I just have to wait for the departure, pass out on the bus, and wake up in this camp again, just like the first day. Everything was drowning in silence. It's exactly the time of a summer day when the sun seems stuck in the sky. The birds and crickets have gone for an after-lunch doze, and the wind is saving its energy to deliver long-awaited coolness to people in the evening. It suddenly crossed my mind that I haven't just missed lunch, but I haven't had any breakfast either. It was ridiculous to search for anything in the canteen. The pioneers had surely cleaned up everything just before the departure. I'm going to take a quick drink. I scratched my head and made my way to Olga Dimitrievna's cabin. Surely there would be something edible in the table's drawer. Someone called for me as I approached the door. Shurik and Electronic swiftly approached the cabin. Are you already packed up? Already packed up, I answered, imitating him. You haven't been quite yourself. You haven't quite been yourself the last few days. What makes you say that? How should I know? You'd know better. I mean, why are you so concerned? No reason. A real pioneer always treats a comrade's problems as his own. I cast a skeptical look at him. Thanks for your concern. I'm fine. There actually was half a loaf of stale bread and a piece of smoked sausage in the drawer. Just loose, just sitting there loose. Perfect, great, dig in. I ate everything with deliberate pleasure, washing it down with smelly water that Olga Dimitrievna probably used to water the plants. Just as I finished, someone started knocking on the door. Come in. Uliana rushed into the room. Oh, it's just you, she said disappointedly. And who did you expect to see? A circus complete with bears? Uliana giggled. Where's Olga Dimitrievna? Don't know. I shrugged. Why not? I don't know because I don't know. What do you want from her, anyway? Got to ask something before the departure. Okay, I'll tell her that you were searching for her if I see her.
By the way, aren't you packed up? Aren't you packing up?
Like I have much to pack.
Well, see ya.
She cracked a sly smile and bounded out of the cabin, slamming the door behind her. And still, it's really strange that no one seemed to be puzzled by the sudden departure. And why am I the only one who was not expecting it? Like everyone really cares if I've packed my things up? As well as that, doesn't anyone care that this is the last time we're seeing each other? The words of that guy in the forest yesterday about all the camp's tenants being unreal suddenly sprang into my mind. Well, right now I'm more ready to believe it than ever. The desk drawer where I found my breakfast contained lots of odds and ends. I grabbed a pencil and piece of paper, examined them for some time, and then slipped them into my pocket. Just in case. I had no intention of watching all the pioneers running around and packing, so I just lay on my bed and didn't even notice how I dazed off. Ellipse. It was somebody's voice that woke me up. A familiar pioneer was sitting directly opposite, with his back to me. I'd gotten used to him a bit since yesterday, and it even seemed that I stopped fearing him. Hey, why do you always hide your face?
Because you shouldn't see it.
If you say so. I wasn't in a position to argue. So, what are you going to reveal this time? You already know that it's the last day of the session, don't you? Yep.
And you've already spoken with that one?
Yep.
So what did he tell you?
Nothing special. He said that there's an exit out of here. The pioneer burst into laughter.
Yeah, I believe that too. Ages ago.
And now?
And what is now? I have my past, my life back then.
He stopped talking for some time.
Anyways, it all was a long while ago, so I don't really remember. The future is all the same. Loops, loops, loops. Repetitions of the same story. Where is this now?
Well, I hate to say it, but I'm not yet as lost in time as you are.
Oh, that's nothing. That'll come with time. He broke into diabolic laughter.
There's just one thing I don't understand. What's your reason for coming to me? What do you expect to achieve?
Me? Nothing, really.
So why did you come then?
It's just because you, him, and others like us are the only real people around here.
Given everything he'd said to me already, I just wasn't ready to believe that all the local tenants are just puppets in some kind of hellish stage play. Are you sure that you're right?
Right about what?
Well, that you're right about everything.
I can't be right or wrong. I didn't choose this world. I didn't throw myself into it. I'm just here. And you're just here.
Listen, I've already got a headache from your philosophizing. Philosophizing? It's one of those words I hate pronouncing. I was kind of puzzled myself as to why I was so calm talking to this mysterious pioneer. Well, here it is, right in front of me. All the fantasy and devilry that's happening in this camp. Here it is, an explanation, at least a partial one, for how I got here. Here they are, the answers I've searched for such a long time. On the other hand, my behavior was quite logical. While I couldn't quite explain what was happening, this cuckoo guy just talked and talked. But it's not like his words changed anything. Then what's the point of listening to him?
Oh, no. You will soon understand everything yourself.
Somebody was knocking at the door. I got up to open it. It was Slavia on the doorstep. You came to see Olga Dimitrievna? No. Come in then. I was 100% sure that the pioneer had already disappeared. Turns out I was right. Slavia took a seat on the bed, and I snuggled against the wardrobe in the far corner of the room. She was distinctly nervous. Did something happen? Not really. It's just today's the last day. Well, I'm already aware. Better late than never. Well, so I thought. I mean, we probably won't see each other ever again. It's a small world, as they say. But maybe you would give me your address to write letters? I would have, if only I knew it myself. You know, let's do it the other way around. You give me your address. I'll definitely write to you upon arrival. But why don't you want to give out yours? Well, we were just about to move, so you never know. It's better if I write to you. I tried to put on my cutest smile to make my story look even more credible. Ah, okay, it's fine then. Slavia got up and seemed to be leaving. Hey, wait, what about the address? Let's do it later. An expression of sorrow and disappointment crossed her face. I had just shut the door, and right then heard the spiteful voice of the pioneer from behind. Well, happy now? You've hurt a girl. What have I hurt her with? What should I have said to her? My dear? Write to my dear granny in the village? Or should I have left her the address of a house that's probably not even built yet? So what? I'm not my brother's keeper. It's your world, not mine. I'll manage somehow in my own. The last phrase really made me squirm. You know what? I didn't manage to finish the phrase. Somebody was knocking at the door again. Come in. Uliana flew into the cabin. Why the rush, milady? I made an excessively showy bow. Me? I'm just... Her eyes darted about cautiously, and her cheeks were blushed. I just wanted to say goodbye. There will be time for that anyway. After all, we'll be going on the same bus. Yeah, you're right, but it's kind of embarrassing in front of everybody. So? Oh, so there is something you can be embarrassed by? I laughed. She pouted. I just wanted to tell you that you aren't a douche, really. In fact, you're almost a cool guy. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Her words astonished me. Well, thanks. You're good to hang out with, too. Well, that's that. She rushed outside, slamming the door loudly. Hey, didn't expect that from her. Did you? I got nothing to do with that. I told you. It really looks like you knew what she will say. Maybe I did. Maybe not. You just came here to mock me? I started to lose my temper. That idea also crossed my mind. Then why the hell are you hanging around here? If I ever need a man to comment on all my actions, I'll hire a professional psychologist. You think that after all this time, I don't qualify as one? My estimation is that after all this time, you've definitely gone bananas. All psychologists are freaks. Yes, but not all freaks are psychologists. He laughed out loud. A sense of humor. How encouraging. Frankly, your jokes are fairly lame. Who are you laughing at? At yourself? That is peak writing. That is pretty good. Listen, If you've got nothing to do in your own world, go and bug that second one.
And have you got anything to do in your world?
The pioneer sharply countered. You know, I'll find out what to do. I'll pack up my things, leave this camp, and then what? Then what? Like I know. I've never been in such a situation before, believe it or not.
It's just that you've forgotten that you won't be able to leave the camp.
Yeah, he was right on this matter. Probably. Just because you failed to do so doesn't mean that I will fail too.
You're the boss.
There was a knocking at the door. So quiet that I barely heard it. Damn, who else is it? Hissed I under my breath and shouted, "Come in." But the door didn't open, so I pulled the handle myself. Lena was on the doorstep. It looked like I really scared her. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You came to see Olga Dimitrievna?"
No,
she said, staring at the ground. "So what is it then? What did Lena want from me?" "Come in." She came in and hesitated in the middle of the room. "Wanna take a seat?" I pointed at one of the beds. Lena hesitated a bit more, but nevertheless took a seat. "Did something happen?"
not at all. It's just..."
She threw a quick glance at me, but blushed at once and looked away.
"Here."
Lena took something out of her pocket and handed it to me. I was stunned. It was my phone. "But where did you get it from?"
I found it in the forest.
"Okay, but why do you think it's mine?"
Some boy told me so.
"Have you ever seen him before?"
I don't know. I couldn't see his face, but he was dressed in a pioneer uniform."
Everything was clear at once. "And don't you wonder what it is?" I looked at the screen. There was still some battery left. Therefore, a cell phone shouldn't look like just a piece of plastic to Lena.
I don't know. Some kind of game.
"Yeah, you're right." I quickly opened Snake in the menu and handed the phone to her. "Here you go, a keepsake."
"Oh, what are you doing? I can't..."
Lena waved her hands at me. "Take it. I have loads of these at home." She resisted a bit more, but finally she took the device.
And what do I do with it?"
"Press the keys to move left and right. You've got to eat these pellets and keep from hitting your own tail."
"Wow, it's so interesting."
She smiled.
"Thank you. And yet I have nothing for you. It's so embarrassing."
"I don't need anything. Thanks."
No, that's not good."
She said with a voice that sounded more confident than usual.
"It's the last day today, after all."
"Yeah,
I hope we'll meet again."
I think we will."
"Then I have a present for you."
"And what is it?"
Close your eyes."
I did so.
And promise that you won't open them until I tell you."
"Okay."
"No, you have to promise."
"All right. I promise." In a moment, I felt a light kiss on my cheek. I was really eager to open my eyes, but I promised.
"Open."
The room was empty. What a girl. The only thing I managed to say.
"So, how does it feel, stud?"
I heard malicious laughter from the place where Lena had just been sitting. "So, that's your new way of pranking me, huh? Using the others?"
"Me? Pranking? God forbid. Indeed, you got a kiss from a sweet girl thanks to me. On the cheek, but anyway."
I really wanted to beat him up in that moment, but I wasn't even sure that he's a physical being here. "I presume that this prank wasn't your last one."
I said, calmer. Who knows? Who knows? Isn't it fun? The pioneer laughed hard. Perhaps Professor Moriarty laughed like that, anticipating the success of his diabolical plan. You're certainly having fun, but I'm not. Relax, dude. There's almost nothing left. And here you go, your second lap. After you do a dozen, then you'll earn a pit stop. Although, you probably won't need me then. You'll figure out everything by yourself. It's not like I need you right now, either. Oh, what ingratitude. Just cut it out. If you'd ever... Just shut up already. No understanding. Shut your damned mouth. I screamed so loud that the walls trembled. The front door suddenly burst open, and Alisa came in. Is it just me, or has someone gone completely nutty nuts? She asked with fright. Well, you could say so, I answered, angrily. Why are you yelling? 'Cause I want to. I already realized that the accidental arrival of Alisa was either planned by this pioneer, or would be commented on by him in a manner that I'd sooner drive a pair of nails into my ears than have to hear. Have you gone psycho or something? Alisa reclined on a bed in a laid-back manner. To what do I owe the honor? I just came in for the sake of it, and you're just here screaming. You aren't doing anything just for the sake of it. I've got nothing to do. I've packed my stuff. It's boring. Well, well. If you think I came to you because... She threw an angry glance at me and turned away. I really shouldn't have come after that. After what? I haven't said a word. Of course, you thought it instead. Oh, so you can read minds now? There's no need to read your mind. It's written all over your face. It was hardly possible to read anything on my face besides fatigue and anger. And what have you read there? That's none of your business. Well, it's not like I'm holding you here. Forget it. I'll go wherever I please. Don't boss me around. Okay, stay here then, for God's sake. Anyway, I liked Alice's company was much more than the pioneers. I laid back and closed my eyes. It took Alisa a few minutes to break the silence. You really don't want to tell me anything? For example? Today's the last day, after all. So, you're happy? Well, she babbled, uncertainly. Everyone's leaving. Good riddance. And that's all? You need something else. Didn't you like it here? Her voice sounded unusual, like a cartoon weasel. I've seen better places. Damn, you're so dumb that speaking to you was a complete waste of time. She got up and headed to the exit. Yep, good luck to you too. Alisa turned to me. Her face was writhing with anger. Couldn't you at least have said that you'll miss me? Sure I will. Wimp! She slammed the door loudly. Stupid. Alisa didn't hear my last line, of course. What a wayward chick, huh? As good as you are. And you, in that case. Of course, keep comparing me to yourself. I remarked mischievously. But what's the difference? We're in the same situation. I've just been here a little longer. Well, in fact, a lot longer. And you've already gone completely nuts. No wonder.
His hoarse laughter was really pissing me off. Listen, have I already told you that you should be an actor? You'd do a brilliant Hannibal Lecter. Especially since you consider yourself a psychiatrist.
I'll think about it. Well, now I must go. Maybe I'll see you again.
Get lost. I turned to look at him, but the pioneer had already disappeared. Oh, finally. But nevertheless, why did he come? It might be the case that me, him, and others like us are the only real people around here. But I desperately didn't want to believe that. All his speech seemed like some sort of complex game. Like he's trying to give me one hint after the other, trying to lead me to something, enabling me to discover some kind of devious plot. Too bad he's not really successful at that, because I'm out of ideas. Time dragged on deceitfully slowly, but it's 5 p.m. already. It's common during the summer, if one counts the seconds and minutes it appears, that even a single hour would never end. But if one thinks of anything else, then the whole day flies by quickly. I decided to start packing. They could leave without me. I quickly took all my winter stuff and shoved it into a bag. I was almost about to jump onto the bed again when the door opened and Olga Dimitrievna came in. Oh, I see you've packed already. That's great. Let's go. I got up reluctantly, grabbed my simple luggage, and followed her. I really don't care what will happen next. I had long suspected that nothing was up to me in this world, and recent events had reinforced my complete confidence in this. I might wake up tomorrow in bus number 410, or I might not wake up at all. And that's all, folks. It's all that simple. There's no point in staying here. There's nowhere to run. Basically, my only exit is to leave on the bus with everyone else. Go into the unknown. That's all I'd been doing for the last week, stumbling down a narrow path in pitch-black darkness, unsure of where is the beginning and where is the end. We were almost approaching the gates when I heard someone calling my name. Semyon, Semyon. Olga Dimitrievna, excuse me, just a minute. Okay, but make it fast or we'll leave without you. I headed for the bushes that the voice came from. Semyon, Semyon. I waded through the thick greenery and came out onto the forest path. The voice seemed to be calling from nowhere. One moment it was heard behind a tree, and now it seemed to be behind my back. Probably it's one of those aliens from the parallel worlds, but I suspect that I haven't met this exact one before. We don't have much time. I'm listening. I know that you've already been contacted by him and him. Yeah. And I know what they told you. Don't ask me how. Okay. But you must know one thing. The thing I know. There's more than a dozen of us here. In fact, more than 1,000. But a lot of people got out. I tried to digest what he said and phrase the right questions. Then why are you here? I stayed. Why? To help others find an exit. Wow, how generous. And why should I trust you? You're the third one already. Well, in fact, I'm not even sure that all of you aren't just my hallucination. It's not about trust. Then what is it about? It's about the right choice. Consider this camp to be a giant maze. You should take a few right turns to find an exit. Okay, and how do I know which ones are right?
You will know. Come with me.
Where to?
To the second lap.
Hold on a sec.
The pioneer said that my second lap will start tomorrow.
He lied.
The speaker raised his voice. He's gone completely crazy, and he's trying to destroy all the others.
Well, so, if I don't go with you and leave on the bus then, I'll be destroyed, right?
I don't know.
Then why do you say so?
Nobody ever returned after a conversation with him.
Listen, why should I trust you?
I was definitely on the edge. While that pioneer just mocked me and didn't seem to be a real danger, this one clearly spoke about things worth being anxious about. I couldn't decide which one I should trust. This problem is like trying to get a blind man to say whether the light in a room is on or off. He can only guess, just like me.
Hurry up. Time is running out. Hey, wait a sec. Make a choice. Are you coming or not?
And I think we're going to end on a little bit of a cliffhanger here, because this choice will be the choice that we make next time. Because we've reached our allotted time for the day. I'm going to move back to the just chatting. All right. I certainly, we've learned a lot about the story and the plot in this one. Those of you watching and listening, I'd certainly like to thank you for sticking around. We'll probably pick this up again next time, same time, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Look out for me tomorrow. Me and Bros will kick back in our Elden Ring thing. I think I've resolved the audio issues I've been having. And with that, I gotta get up and stretch a bit, because not too long after this I gotta go play D&D. So, all of you, thanks for watching and listening. I'll see you next time. I'm Cord the Sword. Take a slice out of your day. I'm so glad to hear that you enjoyed it, and I'll be seeing you shortly, I believe, for D&D. All right then. You all take care.